Alright, quick. Everybody type down below in the comments your guess on how much money I made or lost opening up Evolving Skies. And in the meantime, you can watch this lovely video that breaks down the price deltas for the cards over the past couple of weeks. And then at the very end of the video, you can find out how close or not close you were to my actual final cost figure. But before we do that, let's roll that intro. Hey Gengar Gang, what is going on? My name is Ryan, this is the Analytic Gengar, and welcome to another video. In today's video, friends, we do the Evolving Skies cost and price analysis as well as set breakdown. This is part of, I guess you could now call it, a ongoing series of videos here on the channel, so definitely feel free to check the other ones out. I did one for Chilling Reign that seems to be relatively popular. But yeah, without further ado, let's jump into it. First things first, let's talk about the major assumptions. As with any and all of these types of videos on the channel, this is effectively a break-even analysis. What I do is I try to document every opening of cards from the set that I have done up till now. I then go ahead and grab TCG player data that I will use in order to determine whether or not I broke even, made a profit, or suffered a loss as a result of all of the product that I opened up. Another big thing to bear in mind is that these prices are subject to change. So on screen, you will see the prices and I will call those prices out. And more importantly, I will call out the as of date on those prices. And then bear in mind that those can change in the future, so it's likely that in the next few years it will decline before it starts to pick back up as the set ages more. One final bit is that bear in mind that I do try my absolute best to get everything at MSRP, but obviously some things I do not get at MSRP. And then I guess the second to last thing, or now the last thing, is that when it comes to the way that things are broken down, obviously I will try to sell the code cards and extrapolate as much value as possible. Everything that is not a ultra rare hit or better is treated as bulk for the sake of the video. And finally but not least, anything that is a V card or has texture, meaning it could be a secret rare, an ultra rare, an alternate art, those are the types of things that I will define as a pull for today's video. So without further ado, let's jump right on into it. Now, as you can see on screen, obviously one of the big things is the 3 booster box that I opened up. And as you can see, the price on each of those is $120 US. Obviously not MSRP, but honestly not the worst price for Evolving Skies. It is technically below the MSRP of $144 that you would see on the Pokemon Center. However, it's not close to that, distributor pricing of about $100. All things considered, though, Evolving Skies has been pretty in demand over the past couple weeks since its launch, and so $120 was a pre-order price that I actually paid for these, and I'm actually very happy because for once the price didn't immediately go down as soon as I committed to paying over distributor pricing. So each of these was purchased, I believe, from Safari Zone. Shout out to Safari Zone if any of the team ends up coming across this video, but they definitely hold their people down. It's not a sponsored video, it's just me saying the truth. They certainly try to do as much as they can for the community, and so they definitely deserve the shout out and the free plug. Now, as it comes to breaking down the booster boxes, from the white code card perspective, my first box had 15, my second box had 12, and my last box had 14. So that's pretty consistently at least 1/3 of the code cards, or about 1 in 3 packs, having a white code card. Bear in mind, white code cards are traditionally where you will be receiving your rare hits or holographic hits or better. Typically, unless the set contains amazing rares, there isn't really a good chance that if you get a green code card, unless it's some type of error, that there is a ultra rare hit hidden in there. So I got as high as about 42%, as low as about 33%, but honestly, pretty good and pretty consistent amount of white code cards in each, which is a lot better, I have to say, than Chilling Reign, which was kind of all over the place. And I usually try to avoid making this comparison when it comes to things like a bunch of random boosters, because I don't necessarily think it's fair, purely based on the fact that those boosters, especially the sleeved check lane blisters, may have been picked picked up, mixed up, and then placed on shelves randomly. So I try to avoid making that comparison because in my head at least it makes sense if that's seeded at the distributor case level, but it certainly doesn't make sense that randomly you might, automatically be guaranteed a certain seed purely based on the way that, a Target employee may pick some of the stuff up and stock it randomly on a store shelf. So, they may alter or skew that distribution. You might get super lucky and walk into a store one day and grab 10 packs and they're all white code cards. You might get unlucky, which very frequently happens to me, and get all green code cards. So that's just the way it is. However, I do like looking at booster boxes for this because, there's no manipulation that happens. It's a sealed booster box, and you can usually get a pretty good flavor for the amount of hits that are, distributed across. Now, in addition to the 3 booster boxes that I was able to open up at or near release, I also opened up a ton of other stuff as well. So I did end up grabbing 24 loose blisters from here and there. These are the ones that, just kind of hang on store shelves. So these are pretty neat. They're $4 each. So 24 of them came up to a total of $96. And then I did also open up 18 packs and 6 packs. So the 6 packs are, again, just more loose blisters that I was able to pick up at random stores. The 18 packs actually came from 6 of the 3-pack blisters. So the reason that price isn't at MSRP of $4 a pack is because each of those 6 3-pack blisters that I purchased was actually worth $13, which you can see in the formula right there. So that brings us up to a total of $558. You can see if I just highlight this that you'll get $558 as the grand total that I spent so far on Evolving Skies. Now, on Chilling Reign, I did spend a lot more. A couple things to note. Obviously, right off the bat, most of the stuff I'm opening up, mathematically anyway, is actually at or above the distributor pricing, but technically under the MSRP pricing. So that's one thing to bear in mind. And the second thing is that in previous instances, I have been able to get my hand on more booster boxes, meaning I can just open up a lot more of the stuff at, that like bulk pricing of around $3 to $4. In this particular case, I did end up opening up a lot of $4 packs, be it either through the blisters or the 3-pack blisters. So as a result, that probably also increased my price while decreasing the amount of packs that I had available to open up. Now, in order to see how I did overall, of course, the next step along this process is talking about the actual set. So here we have the set. Now, in case anybody's curious, this set has a whopping total of, I don't even know, hold on, 237 cards, at least according to this very well put together Google sheet. And as you can see, the breakdown is, pretty standard across the board. Obviously, this will be available for anyone who wants to take a peek at it and use it for themselves. And do bear in mind that all of this stuff, again, is as of point in time, as I had mentioned in the intro to this video. Speaking of which, columns D and columns E are where I have the dates. So 8/31 was actually literally a few days after launch, which was probably the ideal time to grab it right when it's at the craziest amount of hype. And then 9/13 was literally not that long ago. It's going to be yesterday as of the day that this video was released. And what's important to note about that is that it's been a good couple of weeks since this stuff launched, and that's important because it gives the set a little bit of time to cool off. It gives the set a little bit of time to come down in terms of pricing, especially because pre-release pricing tends to be so much higher than street day pricing. And what that means is there's always some people who get their hands on product and start opening it up and start circulating it for sale well before the street date, which is the date the set is actually set to release in stores and online. And so as a result, there's always a high demand and therefore higher prices on those particular cards that get circulated around. It's the same phenomena we see all the time. However, if you wait a couple weeks after, and this is what I always advocate for any binder fans out there, is wait a few weeks, because once street date hits, this stuff is now immediately available in stores and online. more and more folks will buy this stuff, more and more folks will open up this stuff, and that means that more and more sellers will have the ability to sell you the card. And once there are more and more sellers, there's increased competition, the pressure on the price goes down while the supply of this stuff goes up as more and more of it is opened up. That's why you can pay, upwards of $400 for a Rayquaza VMAX on your very first day opening Evolving Skies, and then a few weeks later it's going to, drift down into like the 200s. It's not unheard of. It happens with almost every chase card ever, and this is just another practical example of that happening. So as it relates to the various cards in the set, obviously one of the different views that I provide is this breakdown by the rarity. So you can see it starting here in this pivot table, and that's really annoying because that always is going to pop up now. So let's talk about it real quick. When it comes to this set, there is an interesting dispersion here. Now, obviously, there are two that really command your attention, right? If you're looking at either of the dates, the 9/13 or the 8/31, immediately your eyes should go directly to the secret rare and the ultra rares. Now, one thing to note is that the secret rare number is actually higher than the ultra rare, and this shouldn't be a surprise. Later on, I'll show you what cards are driving those numbers particularly, but it's actually quite impressive because one of the things that should be noted is that there are two categories of rarity that are over $1,000 for this set. Now, that shouldn't come as a surprise because we have tons of Eeveelutions, we have tons of alternate arts, and we have tons of secret rares and chase cards that people are big fans of. So, there's over 200 cards in the set. You have many chase cards in this set. This set really speaks to a lot of different people, and that's actually a good thing because that means that prices will actually, be higher for a set like this because there are so many different chase cards. So you can see for the commons, it's a pretty small number, $3.79 down to $2.18. It actually lost value week over week. For the uncommons, it was $8.57 down to $5.49. Also a set that lost value over week at about $3.08 in value decline. When it comes to the rares, similar story, down 95 cents. Interestingly enough, however, here's where things start to take a flip. One of the things that I was theorizing is that this set may actually stagnate in price. What I was shocked to find out is that it actually increased in price. So the advice I gave you all a little whiles ago is actually invalid for this particular instance. Now, bear in mind, I do expect this stuff to normalize, especially as more and more product gets out there and time goes on. But it's just interesting because this is one of very few instances I've seen where a set has actually grown in value, at least according to TCG player data, over the same period of time that we've looked at it. And what I may even do is end up making a community post to follow up on this, maybe at the end of September or maybe like a week after Celebrations comes out, just to see. But one thing to note is that while the common, uncommon, and rare cards all decline in value as sets, what's interesting is that starting with the holo rares and then every other type of rare actually increases in value over the period of time, more or less 2 weeks. So starting off with the rares, with the holo rares rather, they went from $11.70 to $13.79 right here on screen. That means they're up $2.09 as a collective over the period of time. And then, to no one's surprise, the secret rares went up about $40, which is impressive because they alone make up the single largest sum across all of the different types of rarities. But the true standout for this particular set, and again, this is something that I find really weird, is the ultra rare set. So typically what, a classicist might have to say is, well, the secret rares should be the cards that carry the most value. And I guess in theory that makes sense because they're supposed to be the secret rares in the set, not some other type of fancy hoo-ha or the other. But what's interesting is that the ultra rares, the cards that are textured but not necessarily rainbow rares or anything like that, those are the cards that made the single biggest move, $157.98 over the 2-period week of time that I captured data for. What does that mean? There's a lot of cards in this particular band of ultra rares that went up in value. So my theory, without even having looked at this stuff yet, my theory is that it's probably a lot of the alternate arts that have gone up in value, and maybe even the evolutions. And because you have both full art and alternate arts in the ultra rare category, they probably just did more growing over the 2-period week than the secret rares did at the same time. Maybe because the secret rares were already priced so high and so they could only grow so much, or because of maybe some offsets. So for example, if the Rayquaza and the Umbreon both dip in price for the alternate art VMAXs, but other cards may have, made up for that and made up enough that the overall price goes up, even though at a, larger perspective, some cards really lost like hundreds of dollars in value over the 2 weeks. So we're certainly going to see that. And just to do that, let's take a look at the commons real quick. This is sorted ascending price, so obviously really nothing here of any type of interest. The Mareep, I know, is a big card that everyone likes. It lost 4 cents in value, but yeah, that's about it. Like I said, the commons really just kind of tanked in value all across, and that's pretty much representative by the fact that it's $1.61 less than it was to buy it right at launch. For the uncommons, again, a losing category all the way around. You'll see, I think every single card almost dropped in value. The Flaffy was actually one of the cards that, again, because of its playability in the TCG, was highly sought after. It also lost 26 cents on the 2-week period, went from 58 to 32 cents. So another really interesting move there. You might see some folks on eBay listing it for a few dollars. Again, apparently it is a very playable card, and I haven't really looked into the mechanics of why that is, but I am being told that it's highly sought after by many TCG players. However, chances are, if you're at your local card shop or whatever, that the card is still going to be less than $1. It's usually, those higher end prices are usually reserved for videos like this one, where the YouTuber will try to convince his or her audience that it is in fact worth that much to help, factor into the bottom line. I'm using TCG Player, so I figure those are just, near mint copies of the card that are available for sale at any given point. The rares were the last ones that went down in value. Again, there's only one card that bumped up, and that's the Ampharos. Everything else was a straight loss, where Milotic was the worst loss, nearly losing half its value over time. Again, we're talking about a couple cents here, so really not that important. However, let's start talking about the categories that did increase in value, because I have a feeling here is where we're going to see some really interesting tidbits. So, cards like the Zygarde and the Dialga went up in value, and if you're looking at it from a percentage perspective, they went up quite a bit. The Dialga that I have highlighted right here, this card went up about 25% of its original value, which is a pretty impressive feat. Now, again, if this was a $200 card, you'd say, oh wow, it went from $200 to $250. But, bear in mind, as a percentage, it's basically identical to a card that's done that. So, it has gone up that much, although it's just a very cheap card to begin with. Another good example of that, Ludicolo, the Factor of My Nightmares, he has gone up $1.12 in the 2-week period. That's impressive. That's dare I say, that's rare for a rare. And then the Raichu is also in a similar situation, having gone up about 50%, or about 24 cents to be up to 74 cents from 50 cents. So I can see why this category grew quite a bit. Obviously, Dialga, Pikachu, Ludicolo, they certainly help the cause and help create some additional momentum for the holo rare category to go up. Now, let's talk about the two that we are all actually here for. So I'll flip the script and I'll actually do the secret rares first. Again, the secret rares are interesting because they are the largest category by the total price it would take to buy all of them. However, do bear in mind they only grew by about $40, which is less impressive when you consider the ultra rares, which grew by almost 4 times as much in the same period of time. So let's take a quick peek. Now, as you can see, most of these ultra rares are under under 8. I mean, there's really only 3 that are above $100, right? So if we take a look at every ultra rare in the set that is actually under $100, and if I just do some really quick math right here, right? So there are, at least according to this doohickey, there are a total of 34 secret rares in this set, right? Of which we know there are only 3 that are actually above the $100 mark. Now, if we take everything that isn't in that top 3 or isn't above $100 in price, what you'll see is that only $31.91 has actually been increased period over period. So that means to say, from the end of August to about midway through September, the 31 cards that aren't above $100 that are secret rares in the set only went up $31.91. That means that there is a very highly disproportionate amount of increase in value that has actually gone on to the top 3 cards. Now, as it comes to those top 3 cards, let's take a peek at those. That is the Sylveon VMAX, which you can see. Oh, that's a magic card. All right, that's good. That's very good. Way to go, TCG player. And then obviously you have the Umbreon VMAX, which is the one that everyone's a big fan of. And not to be outdone, but the Rayquaza VMAX is probably going to be the big one in this set. Again, these 3 cards are the only secret rares that are above $100. As you can see, we, period over period, they have gone up a couple of bucks. You can see that the Sylveon and the Umbreon actually increased in value, according to TCG Player, and Rayquaza actually slipped in value. And again, that might just be because of the hype around the card not eventually living up to the amount of cards that were printed and available for people to buy. Overall, these 3 cards went up a total net of $8.07, which, again, when you think about it from the perspective of proportions, there's about 34 secret rares, and about 25% of the growth we saw period over period was related to only 3 cards. Now, that's very disproportionate because the other 75% of growth was attributable to the other 75% of the cards in the population. No, not even 75%. We're talking about 31 over 34. We're talking about more or less like maybe somewhere in the range of 85 to 90% of the other cards attributed to the other 75% of growth. So there's a little bit of a disproportionate distribution of the way things grew week over week, and again, that's just mainly due to the fact that, hey, it's Umbreon and Rayquaza. Finally, but not least, is the ultra rares, and I wanted to keep these. Again, the reason we're doing these last is because they started out at $1,041, grew to $1,199. That is total growth from August 31st to September 13th of $157.98. If we're comparing that to the secret rare category over the same period of time, it's 4 times the growth. So let's see what happened here. So obviously there are many, have I said many enough times now? Many cards that are literally borderline just worthless. And that's because this category would also contain all of your Vs and your VMAXs and basically your junk ultra rare hits. Now there's a total of 71 cards, right? Of the 71 cards, let's take some quick math here. According to the data as of this time, of the 71, 42 or more than half of the cards are under $10, right? If we're looking at just those cards, they attribute to $38.89 in growth over the period of time. So again, half the cards contribute to 25% of the overall growth. The other half of the cards, not even half of the cards, will attribute for a far, larger percentage of the total growth of the population. So 29 cards will end up contributing $120 to the final bottom line of the growth in the ultra rare. So let's take a look at those real quick. Of those, we can see that things like the Leafeon, things like the Copycat, they all more or less did pretty well. Copycat went down in value, which is actually kind of shocking, but aside from that, there are quite a few cards like the Dragonite Full Art and like the Espeon Full Art that again performed really well. Dragonite nearly borderline doubled in price. Espeon went up about 25% in price. I see the Sylveon pretty much did the same thing. So there are several Eeveelutions, perhaps unsurprisingly, that did really, really well. Of this sort of upper tier echelon where the cards are above $10 in value at launch, you'd be surprised to find out that Aroma Lady actually decreased in value, but there's actually a few that did. You also have Zinnia's Resolve and the Medicham Alt Art that both kind of slipped in value, and then things like the Duraludon and the regular Rayquaza VMAX also went down in price slightly. Now, as we begin getting closer and closer to the very top of this, one thing that I want to point out is that the top set of cards here are all VMAX, are all rather alternate art cards. So the top 8 cards in the selection of 71 ultra rare cards, they're all alternate art, and that's perhaps unsurprising. The ones that are less popular are the ones that were excluded from this sort of cool kid top tier, and that would be the Duraludon, the Golurk, and the Medicham. So those are the ones that kind of sit outside of this upper echelon of the ultra rares in the set, right? These 8 cards alone attribute for $67 in growth, so a little bit under half the growth was attributed to just 8 cards in the set. Again, this is a set of disproportions because when you look at it, there are many cards that are really liked, but what's interesting is that it's usually a combination of the Eeveelutions, the alternate arts, and the VMAXs, alternate arts, that are really driving a lot of the value in this set. So if we take a quick peek, the Batman Noivern was a big hit. You can see it right on screen right over here. Went up about $12. The Leafeon went up about $17, and I believe this is the farming one that Derium likes to talk about. Oh no, this is the fall aesthetic one that everyone likes to talk about. So that means the Leafeon VMAX is the farming one. You've got the Sylveon, same concept, and then Glaceon, Espeon, then Dragonite, then Umbreon, then Rayquaza. So, of the top 8, literally 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of the cards, yeah, so more than half of those cards are Eeveelutions, and one is Rayquaza, which is the, big old alt art, and that's the one that I pulled, fun fact, and that card went up about $3.77 over the same period of time. So, you now have a good idea of what the prices look like, what the technical breakdown of some of this stuff is, and more importantly, what is driving value in this set. As a quick summary, it would have taken about $2,360 to buy all of the listings that I was able to grab off of TCG Player, and again, bear in mind you'll see things change and flip-flop all the time. As of yesterday, when this video comes out, it's going to take you over $2,500, so by waiting you would have cost yourself $194 extra, and in addition to what you're already going to spend. And bear in mind, this doesn't include a whole bunch of things like shipping and taxes. Long story short, a very expensive set, and again, primarily driven by the secret and ultra rare category, and primarily driven by Eeveelutions, Rayquaza, and alternate arts, which are just through the wazoo in this set. It's that very lethal combination that's honestly causing this to happen, and it's going to take a little bit of time before it cools off enough that you could probably pursue singles with a reliable rate. Now, how did I do? Well, in the packs that I opened, which were a total of 156 packs spanning 3 booster boxes, 30 loose blisters, and then 6 3-pack blisters. I was able to grab a total of, I don't know, bear with me one second, 34 hits. So yeah, pretty much 1 in 3 packs got me a hit of some kind or the other, and that's excluding things like the rares, which again, we're just gonna, like any kind of holo rare, would get treated as bulk. Now, as of 8/31, the price on those would have been $401.54, and as of 9/13, it's a total of $437.45. So I actually managed to go up in value over the same period of time, which again is in line with the overall, which we saw right over here, which is that, hey, the price on most of these cards went up over the same period of time. Now, as it comes to breaking down and exploring some of this stuff, let's take a quick peek at that. Obviously, when it comes to the bulk breakdown, you get 6 commons, 3 uncommons, and 1 rare per pack, as well as an energy. There are 36 packs in a booster box. I opened up 3 boxes. That's incorrect, but I was able to override that right over here. So the total amount of packs that I opened up is 156. Again, that's going to be the equivalent of 3 booster boxes, 30 blisters, and 18 packs that came from 3-pack blisters. And as you can see, here are the total commons and uncommons that I got. Again, the price per card is going to be 4 cents. Here's the total. We got the rares, which are 156 rares. Bear in mind there's 1 rare per pack. Mind you, I got 34 hits, so we have to take those 34 hits away, so there's 122 either holographic rares or regular rares. We're going to treat them all the same, and you can see that my total price for the bulk that I've generated from opening up all of this stuff is $63.48. Now, for codes, obviously I opened up 156 packs, and in the unrealistic event that I didn't give away code cards and things of that nature, I'd end up being able to sell each of these at or close to launch for about 35 cents. If I were able to pull that off, I'd have $54.60 in value there. So in total, if you add up the bulk sale of cards and the sale of codes, you get about 118 bucks. Tack on the value of my hits, which again, as of 9/13 or yesterday, is about $437.45. We get a total of $555.53 in total value that I'm able to quite literally squeeze out of that set. Now, as you can see here, that makes for an interesting story. Very interesting story, as a matter of fact. I spent $558, excluding taxes and shipping and stuff like that. The total value that I was able to grab, assuming I was able to do everything the way that I said I would, is very close. And so, as you can see right here, profit or loss, $2.40. Now, let's talk about that. Couple of things that I just want to say. One, I could shave $60 off the top if the booster boxes were at distributor pre-pandemic pricing. So immediately off the bat, you can add $60 to this and come out with about $58 in profit if I would have been able to get this stuff at distributor pricing. I realize that's very unrealistic, which is obviously why I didn't really make a scene of it, but it is the situation we currently find ourselves in, which is why it's very unrealistic. You know, this just goes to show, however, that in theory, if and when those prices go back down to distributor level, it'll be a lot more value additive for the community, because again, I've said this multiple times now, it doesn't cost a reseller anything if Pokemon puts a lot of hits in a box or not. Same thing is true of Pokemon. If you're looking at it at an aggregate, it probably costs them fractions of a percentage to print a ultra rare or a textured card compared to a regular common card. And so neither of those parties benefit from the hits you get from the box. However, if there are sellers out there that are marking this stuff up at and above distributor pricing, that's where you can see the impact to the average collector, right? Someone who isn't doing the math here would never realize this, but for someone like myself who's taken the time to be a little bit more analytical about everything, you can see that the $60 that you pay extra over here actually greatly impacts the value that you're getting at the bottom line figure when everything is said and done. Bear in mind, as always, that one additional caveat is those codes. Obviously, it's one of those things where 35 cents is very aggressive a number, but is theoretically very much possible right around launch. However, bear in mind that that price point quickly decays over time. So in the first week or so, you may see that go from 35, maybe even 60 cents a code, all the way down to about 10 cents a code, and then in the weeks to follow, it'll probably drop to like 3 cents a code. So in theory, all of the erasure that I did from eliminating any pricing over about $100 would be made up for with the code cards. So it's one of those things, you're borderline teetering on breaking even right now. The $2.40 isn't something I really feel. It's nice to know that I got all this stuff from my binder anyway, but it is interesting to note that if you take away a couple extra bucks that are above the usual selling price, what's interesting is that you can see the real value that this stuff would have had on me and how great a set this would have been, being a very clear win. But with all that said, friends, thanks again for checking out another video. I hope you enjoyed today's video, and if you learned anything about Evolving Skies, pricing, or supply and demand on some of this stuff on the ground with a real life tangible example like the one that I showed in today's video, definitely feel free to leave a like, and let me know down below in the comments if you ended up commenting about how bad or well you think I did. Definitely let me know down below how well you did as a reply to your comment. I'll try to get back to you, as many of you guys as possible. As always, if you're not already, feel free to subscribe to the Gengar Gang to join our happy little community. And other than that, friends, I hope you guys are having an amazing Tuesday, and we will talk soon. Peace.